Hey, Goliathon volunteer, this is Phil McFarland. I am here with Paul Stone.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
We are going to go through the rules of Leap of Faith, and we want to make sure that you understand how to be a good volunteer at Leap of Faith.
Okay, so at Leap of Faith, this is a really fun obstacle to be at if you're a volunteer, but it's also a really tough obstacle to judge correctly. Okay, so I want to make sure you understand exactly what it is to fail and what it is to succeed. Okay, so as you come up, you're going to be working here with a group of volunteers. One volunteer ought to be kind of the obstacle greeter. And as they come up, you want to make sure people know they're at Leap of Faith and make sure they're familiar with the rules. You can tell them the rules. You can say, hey, make sure you read these. We put the rules up high so everybody can see them. So let's go through the rules here. So it says use feet only to leap across the floating tires, which means that if they go down on their knees on the tire, they're out. If they touch the tire with their hands, they're out. Okay, so feet only on the tires. And one of the things we find here is that people have a tendency to get up to the starting tire and they just freeze. They're like, don't know if they're gonna make it, and they're just a little bit afraid, and so they kind of freeze. So we have a starting tire. Once you step on it, you've got 5 seconds to go, all right? If they take more than 5 seconds, you can warn them, but you say, I'm sorry, I've got to call you out. You're taking more than 5 seconds. The goal here is that if people just freeze there, there's people behind them, it's going to cause this big backup at the obstacle. All right, this is where it gets really tough to judge this obstacle and takes a good understanding of what happens here. So some part of your body must touch the landing tire before you touch the mud, all right? This is a very carefully worded statement, meaning that they need to touch the landing tire, but they don't necessarily have to keep from getting a little bit wet when they touch it, all right? So this is really about forward progress. If they're running across the tires and they can jump from the last tire and even reach out with their hand, let's take a look at how this works, Ty. They can run across these tires and they can reach out with their last hand. If you look across here, we've got a tire that's got a little bit of green on it for both the G3 and the G2. If they can touch that with their hand, great. If they leap at the end and they land and they can't quite touch the tire, but they need to like touch the bottom of the underneath the water to kind of push to get to the tire, then it's a failed attempt. All right, so it's really about forward progress. If they touch it and it's clear, you can see that the momentum to get to that tire came from their leap off of one of these floating tires out here, then it's a successful attempt. You probably will have people, you'll probably have about 15 or 20 people that will leap and reach out with their hand. Okay, so you got to watch carefully and make that call. All right, so if they hit the ground first in any way, hit the mud in any way, then they're out. On the G2, you're going to have a lot less people do that. They're probably not going to leap, but you might have a leaper, 1 or 2 throughout the day on G2, okay? But again, they got to touch the tire with the green on it. G1, they're allowed to have assistance, okay? So someone can actually stand in the water and steady the tires, and they can work their way across if they feel a little afraid. G1's pretty easy. Again, they need to kind of just move through there. Once they get to the end and they touch the tire, then they need to get a band, and somebody from the volunteer crew needs to be putting that band on them. You can find the bands in the obstacle box. Spin around here. We can see the obstacle box. You've got bands, you've got little pouches to put the bands in so you can hold lots of bands. Get them a band, and then they need to make sure that they get their, even if it's a failed attempt, either failed or successful, that needs to be recorded with the iPhone app on their wristband. So they need to get that. They need 12 scans to make it through the event. So you got to make sure that everybody that comes through here gets scanned in some way. Okay? Phil, anything I missed?
I think the only thing, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you are confused at how to judge this obstacle, please let us know, and we will make sure that you know how to effectively judge this obstacle so that the participant can have success while being there. So thanks again for coming out to help us as a Goliathon volunteer, and we will see you on the course.